Hello, 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 my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds, and welcome to my live stream. I'm Rosebud Reads, and this is my book garden. Actually, this is my basement, but I think it looks pretty good. Like, not too bad. Could be much worse. Anyway, oh, hello, Mars Rover and Chi Kike. Chi Kiki. Oh my gosh, I'm already having issues with names for both of you. And we haven't even started yet. It's gonna be rough tonight, apparently. Hello to both of you. How you doing? I know, 2 days in a row, right? Okay. Okay. But yeah, happy Wednesday. Oh, you can't stay for the whole time, but glad you can catch some of it. Let me know when you're leaving. I'll try to it won't be a timestamp, but I'll at least put the time where you have to go in the chat so then you can find it easily. But yeah, no, thanks for even coming. I know it's different, different day, so I totally would have understood if you couldn't make it. But I'm glad you're at least here for a little bit. But yeah, disclaimers. So this is a chill stream, obviously. We're gonna be chatting. We're gonna be conversing back and forth. If you're looking for a straight read through of this book, that's not really what's going to be happening. I'm sorry. Hopefully, you'll be able to find that soon. But if you don't mind, you can stay, hear the story, hear some conversation, hear some ideas, and see what happens. But anyway, this book, The Imperial Uncle, is not mine. I don't own anything related to it other than the physical copy and my time reading it. So please don't come after me. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. Yeah, I'm just doing this because. But yeah, I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. I don't think I am. But yeah, so we're doing this a different day because tomorrow is finally the Wei-Wuxian Foxian tattoo, which you will be able to see on Tuesday, which is when we'll finish off the book in total, because this will only be the first extra out of 3. We'll read the next 2 this coming Tuesday. But yeah, anything happened since yesterday? Or anything new that you're looking forward to this weekend? Feel free to add into the chat, but I guess we'll just kind of go ahead with it because like nothing's really new. The only new thing is I painted my nails today. That's the biggest thing that I did today. I worked out and painted my nails. Woo! So yeah, I guess we'll just get into it. We ended on a rather abrupt note last time. Like for the main storyline, it kind of was like, oh yeah, all this happened. Our main 2, Liu Tongyi and Chengjun, or Prince Huai. We'll just call him Prince Huai. It's easier. We're circling each other and finally got together, and then we did a 10-year time skip, and Chitan passed away, and then we kind of had a fade to black moment with, or not Chitan, Chizzy passed away, and had a fade to black moment with Chitan kind of having an homage to, or a foil to, kind of where we started with Imperial Uncle, with him now having, I don't know if he has any nieces, but like nephews, kind of in the same situation of Prince Huai. Hopefully with less negative context. But yeah. So let's get into it. Extra 1, Painting of a Willow. I hung in midair, watching the sorrowful underground scene with a heart full of anticipation, exhilarated. After many years in the Imperial prison, at last this day had come. A chance to inhabit a body had appeared before me. I was a ghost, a spirit of the injured dead. As to how many years I had been here, I could not be bothered to count, and no longer knew. All right, right off the bat, this is not what I was expecting. Like, I didn't know what to expect, but I was not expecting ghost. Long ago, like the man below me now, I had been locked up in this cell. Grave was the wrong I had suffered, and hard I took it. With my belt, I hanged myself from a rafter, thus perishing and becoming a hanged ghost. Only after becoming a ghost did I learn that the legends were true. The underworld would not accept the ghost of one who had committed unaliving, especially by hanging. I didn't realize that was a legend with Asia. Interesting. I could only keep my watch here and await the arrival of another hanged ghost. Only then would I be able to reincarnate. Further lore. Interesting. However, after I became a ghost, the ceiling of the prison cell was boarded up, sealing off the rafters. No nails were left in the walls, so even if you wanted to hang yourself, you wouldn't find a place for the rope. Ghost lore, exactly. Oh, that kind of brings a new level of ouch to the Shilian lore with Rui Hei. If that also is the same kind of lore applicable there, that's another bit of oomph. We're talking heaven official right over there, but if people, yeah, oh yeah, now I'm sad. Sorry, Momars Rover. I could only keep my watch here and await the arrival of another hanged ghost. Only then would I be able to. Oh no, we read that. You couldn't find a place for the rope. In the other cells, ghosts came and went. I remained, year in and year out. I was indignant. Living had been hard going, and now being a ghost was hard going as well. Heaven wished to keep me in this cell for all eternity, so I would defy heaven. Without a hanged ghost to take my place, I could not reincarnate, so I would simply find myself a dead man and inhabit his body. Sassy dead ghost. I had committed unaliving and could only inhabit those who had done the same, and few merited being shut up in this cell. During my arduous wait, a few came, none willing to take the short-sighted approach. They waited obstinately to be killed or released. At last, after years unnumbered, he was locked up. I could tell that he would not be killed and might very soon be released. But given the circumstances that had brought him here, it was no easy task for him to make his peace. It was simply fate that had brought him to me to inhabit. With a smile, I watched him swallow the pill and waited patiently. Now, on the ground, he was bleeding on, delivering his last wishes. That man named Liu Tongyi was deathly pale, despair in his eyes. Oh, okay, now we're bringing it back around. Everyone is like this. They cannot see their own hearts, and they cannot interpret others' thoughts. It was clear at a glance that Liu Tongyi loved him. Unfortunately, he looked without seeing and only went on groaning for his own satisfaction. Looking at Liu Tongyi's expression, I felt a sudden trace of envy. Had there been someone to look at me like that back then, my death would have been worth it. No, rather, I wouldn't have killed myself under any provocation. I descended. He spat out a few feeble syllables. Ransi. The hand clenching Liu Tongyi's jade-green sleeve slackened, bit by bit. I was just about to take aim and drop when he took another rattling breath, grasping Liu Tongyi's sleeve again, and spoke a rather exhaustive sentence. As I am, I can hardly be buried without causing trouble. So let me be burned, and scatter the ashes by some mountain or river, and everything will be clean. You've got to be kidding. Your last wish is to be cremated? You won't even let your death benefit someone? How stingy. And how naive. What say will you have in it once you're dead? Watching his grip loosen, his head fall askew and come to rest against Liu Tongyi's shoulder, I settled. The body became mine without a hitch. There was quiet all around. The body, leaning close against mine, was rigid, as if it, too, had become a corpse. I squeezed an edge of cool, slippery fabric and half opened my eyes. Ransi. Liu Tongyi shuddered. I drew close to his cheek and lowered my voice to its quietest. Ransi, that was an act just now. I'm playing dead. Please, help me. I want to escape. Liu Tongyi's body stiffened once more. Urgent footsteps came from nearby, accompanied by a cacophony of voices. I closed my eyes again and laid my head down on Liu Tongyi's shoulder. I felt Liu Tongyi release me slowly, ever so slowly, and stand. A brief pause, and his voice, without any emotion placid, said, His Highness Prince Huai has taken poison and killed himself. Just then, I suddenly became aware of something. The cell did not contain the aura of another ghost. Where was Jing Wei Yi's soul? In a certain corner of the body, something stirred slightly, then sank into silence once more. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck the top of my head. It was Jing Wei Yi's soul? He was alive! He was actually alive! He had actually been playing dead all along! I'd entered the body of a living man! Was this fate? Oh, okay, I guess that's part one of this chapter. A hand palpated what was currently mine and also Jing Wei Yi's neck, peeled open an eyelid currently shared between him and me, checked our shared pulse, felt our shared chest. Your Majesty, I beg leave to report. His Highness Prince Huai has passed away. The voice that followed was resonant, wrathful. Examine him again. Prince Huai couldn't have killed himself. He must be pretending. Well, the present emperor was young. He was a wise ruler. He'd hit the mark. So there was another round of fumbling, followed by the thud-thud of kowtowing. Your Majesty, His Highness Prince Huai has truly passed away. Passed away, said the emperor's voice with a cold laugh. Our own august personage would pass away sooner than him. Footsteps came up beside me and stilled. Imperial Uncle, we know you are faking. Get up, and we will give you a full pardon. He was in a heavy sleep and wouldn't wake for a day or two. I, meanwhile, could have gotten up, but all I wanted to know was how to leave this body. Oops, now you're stuck. With silence all around, I heard Liu Tongyi say, Your Majesty, The imperial physician has completed his examination. His Highness Prince Huai has indeed perished by his own hand. There was still a sneer in the Emperor's voice. What makes Officer Liu so certain? Our imperial uncle has always been crafty. We do not believe he would die so willingly. Feigning death to escape imprisonment is much more his style. I could not help wondering how irresponsible Jing Wei Yi must have been in life that no one would even believe in his unaliving. His death was indeed a sham, but when I heard the Emperor's remark, my heart still chilled on his behalf. Dude, even the ghost feels bad for this guy and his luck. That's sad. That's really sad. Your Majesty, Liu Tongyi said, his tone still mild. Before his death, His Highness Prince Huai conveyed to me his last wishes. Taking into account the severity of his guilt, he did not wish to be interred, and instructed me to ask your Majesty on his behalf to have his remains cremated and the ashes scattered to the four corners of the earth, by mountain or river. Silence fell once more in the cell. A long moment passed. In what light does Officer Liu view our imperial uncle's statement? Said the Emperor. Liu Tongyi said, It is my belief that His Highness Prince Huai, knowing that your Majesty would be sure to doubt the authenticity of his unaliving, must have chosen this means to set your Majesty's mind at ease. From what official Liu says, said the Emperor, our imperial uncle understood us well and was solicitous of us. His Highness Prince Huai was, after all, your Majesty's uncle, said Liu Tongyi. The Emperor paced a few steps to my side. Officer Liu, your speech at present is somewhat dissimilar to what it is ordinarily. There was a thread of weariness in Liu Tongyi's voice. Forgive me, your Majesty. At present, I no longer know how to act for the best. I request to withdraw and look for your Majesty's consent. Yet again, there was a moment of silence in the cell. The Emperor permitted Liu Tongyi to withdraw. When the sound of Liu Tongyi's footsteps reached the cell door, the Emperor suddenly spoke again. Officer Liu, do you think, as we do, that our imperial uncle's death is not genuine? Liu Tongyi did not answer. The Emperor went on. Oh, no. When Officer Liu told us of our imperial uncle's last wishes, it was intended as a reproach. Official Liu believes that our imperial uncle is dead. I would not dare to reproach your Majesty, Liu Tongyi said calmly. We have treated Jing Wei Yi with that humanity and duty could ask of us, said the Emperor. He plotted rebellion in secret, and still we agreed to spare his life and sent Yin Yu to bring him two paths from which to choose. What else had we to say to him? I only think, said Liu Tongyi, that when the investigation had not yet assembled all the evidence, it was slightly precipitate of your Majesty to send Supervisor Yun to bring Prince Huai a finalized outcome. I advised against it at the time, but your Majesty did not accept my counsel. The Emperor's voice rose steeply in volume. What remained to be investigated? Jing Wei Yi's own conduct in recent years. Was that because we entrapped him? Because Yun Yu entrapped him? Or because Prince Zong entrapped him? He confessed, and it was you who took his confession, official Liu. I thought that, even though Prince Huai had confessed, corresponding proof for each point still needed to be found before a final decision could be made in this case, said Liu Tongyi. There indeed, official Liu speaks in the style of the Court of Judicial Review, said the Emperor. Not a stone left unturned. Tell us, then, if the law were strictly followed, what punishment would Jing Wei Yi's crime merit? When we spared his life, were we not bending the law in his favor? Therefore, said Liu Tongyi, I believe that His Highness Prince Huai's suicide is perhaps the best course. Your Majesty, please be magnanimous. I will take my leave. Liu Tongyi's measured footsteps grew distant. Again, the prison was quiet. I had not mistaken my man. Liu Tongyi was truly impressive. With this rebuff, the Emperor would for the moment have no more doubts about Jing Wei Yi's death, and my escape would be much easier. A long time passed before some unknown official, unafraid of dying, asked the Emperor for instructions for dealing with Prince Huai's remains. The Emperor then ordered the remains to be temporarily removed to that place. I felt a mat placed beneath me and a cloth laid atop me. My head and feet were lifted, and I was moved onto a litter. Many years ago, I had watched from midair as my remains were carried out like this. I had been better off than this Jing Wei Yi. I had been better off then than Jin Wei Yi. At least my corpse was cushioned on a soft padded mattress. Perhaps this was because it had been deep autumn then, and now it was summer. But at the time, I had only been able to watch as my corpse was carried away, while my soul could not pass beyond the prison door. This time, inside Jing Wei Yi's body, I was effortlessly carried out, and at last broke free of my cage. That place was quite distant from the Imperial prison. With Jing Wei Yi's body, I went outside and boarded a carriage, traveled for a long time, then left the carriage and passed over a number of thresholds before finally coming to rest. The court eunuch said, Prince Huai committed unaliving in the Imperial prison for fear of punishment. His Majesty has been gracious and permitted his remains to rest at his residence. Tomorrow, when the body has been washed and dressed, it will be taken to Pufang Temple to await cremation. Oh, so the body had been taken back to Jing Wei Yi's manor. Jing Wei Yi had unsuccessfully attempted to rebel and commit unaliving for fear of punishment. Most of the servants in his manor had scattered. The paltry few remaining did not dare to cry openly, only to give a few furtive whimpers beside the body. Only one comparatively courageous man kowtowed several times, thud, thud, and spilled a cup of wine in libation. Crying, he said, Your Highness, Hansi does not know what crime you have committed. Hansi only knows that you were a good master. Your goodness to me will be eternally remembered. Every day I live is a day I will make offerings to your Highness's memorial tablet. I will never forget the kindness of the old prince, the old princess, and your Highness towards me. In this cold and barren world, a loyal servant like this was a true rarity. When he was through crying, he was thrown out by the guards. Perhaps the Emperor still had doubts about Jing Wei Yi's death. He sent a number of guards and a court eunuch to keep watch over the body. The guards brought over a brazier, in which they lit incense and burned funeral goods. Whispering, they said again and again, Your Highness, Prince Huai, you are a man of lofty aspirations, but sadly you are not fated to succeed in your great undertaking. We are but humble nonentities. Go on your way with an unburdened heart, and do not cling to this world. I liked the smell of the incense, and a whiff of it restored my strength. Sadly, I could not move as I liked after possessing this body. I couldn't help feeling a little glum. I wished to exercise a small bit of magic. I pulled together a chill wind, which scared the eunuch and the guard so much that they scrambled to the floor to kowtow ceaselessly. Unfortunately, I could not open my eyes in public view, but just listening to the sounds brought me great pleasure, a minor distraction while I temporarily lay stiff as a board. Bored stiff. As the eunuch and the guards kept kowtowing so hard their teeth clacked together and falling over themselves trembling, I heard approaching footsteps. Then Liu Tongyi's clear and sonorous voice said, "Whence comes this alarm?" In shaking voices, the eunuch and the guard said, "Imperial Chancellor Liu, you've come just in time. His Highness Prince Huai, he died with a grievance, and just now there was a chill wind. All the funeral money flew up." Oh, so if anyone doesn't know, they would burn what's called paper money. That would be sent to the underworld, so you could live in Ghost City and be prosperous. So once people died, they would burn paper money or paper effigies, like servants, bodyguards. I think they're called paper effigies. Kind of so you were better off in life. Interesting. Liu Tongyi said, "The door of this hall opens south. There is nothing wonderful in a breeze blowing into the hall in summer." The sounds of the eunuchs and the guards' teeth chattering continued. Liu Tongyi added, "I had a sudden sense that there was a suspicious aspect to His Highness Prince Huai's death, and therefore came to investigate. Please step aside to supervise." The eunuch and the guard said at once that if Imperial Chancellor Liu thought there was a cause for suspicion, of course he ought to investigate. His Highness Prince Huai had been a prince after all. Their presence during the inspection would be inappropriate. They ought to stand watch outside instead. So they filed out. I heard the door close. The only sound was of Liu Tongyi's footsteps gradually approaching. He alone remained in the hall. I opened my eyes and sat up. At first, Liu Tongyi seemed to be startled. Then he calmed. He had changed into his robe of office, a solemn dark blue, intensely official-looking, less warm and human than the casual clothing he had worn before. I tugged on his sleeve. In an adoring voice, I whispered, "Ransi, thank you." With a solemn bearing, he said quietly, "No need. I only wanted to know what your Highness wishes to do, and to know the circumstances. There must be some story behind Prince Zong's words before he fell unconscious, the way your Highness's confession was delivered. I would not be overindulgent, nor would I be unjust." I was a little amused. Was he saying this for Jing Wei Yi's benefit, or his own? He could not prove that Jing Wei Yi had been unjustly accused, yet he was helping him fake his death. This was not the conduct of an honest official. I mean, probably the most honest one you'd find in that court. Let's be real. except maybe official Shang. He seemed pretty straightforward. Clearly, he was not so honorable, yet he insisted on pretending to be. Why do that to himself? It was Jing Wei Yi's labored dying words that had provoked him, making him agree so readily to help. I couldn't let him calm down now. If his false honor took the upper hand before I succeeded in taking over Jing Wei Yi's body and I became a gallows ghost with him, it would be a miserable failure. So I gazed at him lovingly clutched his sleeve, called in a soft, loving voice. Ransi, I have put my life in your hands. It is up to you to decide whether I live or die. I will have no regrets. In the tranquil hall, we gazed at each other. I wonder if this guy ever if Ransi will ever tell Jing Wei Yi about this, because I imagine he didn't have any memory about this. Before Liu Tongyi could speak again, I took aim at his lips and kissed him fiercely. Liu Tongyi's body stiffened. He didn't resist. He was actually very yielding. A long time later, I released him. His eyes were clear, but I couldn't see through them. Softly, he said, Your Highness has no heartbeat. The Imperial physician checked and found no pulse. Whether sleeping or waking, there is no flaw in your performance. Why? Affectionately, I said, I'll tell you when I get out. Does your Highness plan to leave from the manor? Liu Tongyi said. How could I said. The Emperor's order to let Jing Wei Yi's corpse rest in the manor was clearly an attempt to reveal any subterfuge. Therefore, in the manor, I could take no action. My performance must be authentic. Hufang Temple, I said. Liu Tongyi said nothing more. This was no time for conversation. I was just about to return to acting like a corpse when Liu Tongyi said blandly, Supervisor Yun will come soon to see your Highness. Supervisor Yun? Who is that? With a slight effort of thought, I recalled that this was the person who had brought Jing Wei Yi's two paths to choose from. His name was Yun Yu. At the last, Jing Wei Yi had called him Suaya. This person held profound significance for Jing Wei Yi. When I touched on this name in my mind, Jing Wei Yi's soul, fast asleep in some recess, stirred. Closed my eyes and lay down. Liu Tongyi, Yun Yu. Fascinating. Once Liu Tongyi was gone, I languished in boredom. I slept within Jing Wei Yi's body, and as I lay fuddled with sleep, I heard someone call out, Supervisor Yun. I pricked up my ears and listened carefully. Footsteps approached, not fast and not slow either. They seemed to be made by cloth shoes, not an official's boots. The sound slowed as it drew near. At last, it arrived beside me. After a pause, the cloth covering Jing Wei Yi's face was suddenly lifted away. After that, there wasn't a trace of sound. That person stood beside me, completely motionless, even the sound of his breathing inaudible. I could almost have believed that this Supervisor Yun was like me, a ghost. For better or worse, there had been something between him and Jing Wei Yi in life. Now his remains lay before him. Whether true or false, a couple of sighs, a few words of lamentation must surely be called for. Sadly, this Supervisor Yun was as unmoving as a mountain, disappointing in my ardent hopes. After a while, or after I knew not how much time had passed, there came the sound of another person stepping into the room. Then I heard a voice say, "You." Beside me, Supervisor Yoon stirred at last. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The Emperor came close. "You, we heard that you were unwell. Why come here?" Supervisor Yoon did not answer. The Emperor said, "You can stop looking. It really is him." The physician in Liu Tongyi personally examined him. Supervisor Yoon remained silent. The Emperor continued. "When he died, he deliberately called for Liu Tongyi to be with him. Deliberately had Liu Tongyi tell us to cremate him and scatter his ashes anywhere at all. We think that if he has now reached the kingdom of the underworld, he must hate us profoundly. Will he also hate you?" Supervisor Yoon spoke at last. In a most commonplace voice, he said, "Yesterday he said to me that we would speak again another time. I thought that I was humoring him, so I agreed. I did not realize that he was also humoring me." He replaced the cloth over Jingwei Yi's face and quietly said, "I never thought you would keep the genuine article for yourself." He turned to leave. "Your Majesty, when will the body be washed?" "In half a shichen," said the Emperor. "I will leave once the body has been washed," said Yun Yu. The washing of the body was a total shambles. The so-called washing itself consisted of having my head and feet lifted by a few eunuchs, being plunged into a big tub of water. During this process, a passel of priests, monks, and nuns chanted incantations, rang bells, and struck chime stones, recited all manner of scriptures to release a person from karmic sin, droning on and on. The Buddhists and the Taoists were mixed together. Whether they counteracted each other, I don't know, but at any rate, they had no effect on me. When the scriptures had been recited, I was fished up from the tub of water. The wet clothes were stripped, the body was wiped clean. This represented being cleansed from karmic sin. The scriptures being recited changed from those of release from karmic sin to incantations of reincarnation. But there wasn't a single affected sob. Still later, the time came to dress the body. As soon as a pair of underpants were put on to cover its nakedness, the Emperor's voice said, "We will dress Prince Huai." A sudden hush fell over the hall. Even the ringing of the bells and the recitations of the scriptures halted. The Emperor said, "Prince Huai had no children. The work of dressing him ought to be taken on by his nephews. After all, he was our Imperial Uncle. His attempt to usurp our throne was unsuccessful, and now that he is dead, we dress him. It ought to be a consolation to him." Before he could finish, the sounds of people kneeling and touching their heads to the ground started up. Everyone counseled him in no uncertain terms against this course of action. After all, Prince Huai had committed a crime. This would be insupportable. His Majesty's mercy and magnanimity shone as a beacon through untold ages. But if he followed through with his intentions, His Highness Prince Huai would remain in the kingdom of the underworld eternally, unable to reincarnate. I heard muffled snickering. The Emperor was only doing this for show, and his subjects were well aware of it. To expect of them to counsel him in all seriousness with reverence and awe in the mutual play acting was truly the utmost trial. Between the so-called art of the emperor and way of the subject, when all's said and done, the only question is which side can exceed the other in hypocrisy. With his ministers thus counseling him, the emperor persisted, and even snatched up Jingwei Yi's arm and was ready to insert it into his sleeve when someone rushed forward to dissuade him. At this point, Liu Tongyi put in his timely piece. Prince Huai did commit a crime, and your majesty is the ruler, while Prince Huai is a subject. For your majesty to dress Prince Huai would truly be inappropriate. Permit these princes to take on the task. Once he said this, a number of voices offered their services, all very young. It turned out that Jingwei Yi had numerous nephews. One came forward directly and knelt. Your Majesty, please condescend to allow your subject brother to take on this task and dress our Imperial Uncle. The voice was tearful and sounded quite sincere. At last, the Emperor said, Very well, Prince Dai, you will do it. Prince Dai dressed Jingwei Yi in an inner robe and outer jacket. His breathing grew strained. He seemed to be sobbing. Beside him, a eunuch offered consolation. Your Highness Prince Dai, please restrain your grief and accept the inevitability of loss. While His Highness Prince Huai committed an offense of unpardonable gravity, he has already passed on, his soul returned to the underworld. When he has been freed of all karmic sin, he will have the chance to live honorably in the next life. Choked with emotion, Prince Dai said, Imperial Uncle, go in peace. In a few days, I am headed to Henan and won't be able to come see you often. I will burn funeral money for you. May you be well in the underworld. If you lack anything, come to me in a dream. Oh, like, I know we were joking about the Labubu and the Lafufu with him, but he just earned a Lafufu, or Labubu. Like, he's kind of a little shit, but, like, he does actually give a shit. So, he gets a pass. A few teardrops fell on Jingwei Yi's face. At last, someone to cry for Jingwei Yi during his death. Even as a ghost, he would not be meanly treated. Not like me. In all these years, I had not received a single piece of funeral money. That's rough, bud. What did you do? Like, what was so bad that, like, nobody cried for you? After putting on the outer robe and before withdrawing, Prince Dai put something in Jingwei Yi's mouth. I thought it was a piece of jade. A chill spread from it, instantly invigorating my yin energy. Oh, that's probably the jade he was eyeing. Oh, at the beginning of the story. The one that actually was an antique. That Liu Tongyi got back for him. When the socks and shoes had been put on, the hair bound and crowned, and I was carried back to the platform, the cloth beneath me had been changed to satin, and a pillow had been placed beneath my head, probably one made of jade. The recital of scripture once again rang through the hall in chorus. A woman's voice said, Your Highness Prince Huai, may you be freed from your karmic obstructions, and if you re-enter the cycle of reincarnation, may you be a good person in your next life. In this life, our karmic connection has run its course, and we neither of us owe each other any further debt. Beginning today, I will humbly offer a beacon for you before the Buddha and chant scriptures every night that you may soon be freed from the cycle of reincarnation and find ultimate paradise. I had thought that Jingwei Yi was a cut sleeve. This entanglement with a nun was a surprise to me. Oh, it's the princess. I had truly underestimated him. When this woman finished her prayer, the voices of a group of nuns chanting scripture erupted. Amid the noise, I heard Liu Tongyi say, "Your Majesty, I am slightly indisposed. I will withdraw and hope you may graciously permit it." The Emperor said, "Permitted," and Liu Tongyi gratefully withdrew. Before leaving, he added, "Supervisor Yoon, would you like to withdraw with me?" In a voice of utmost calm, Yoon Yu said, "I will go when I have finished watching. Thank you, Chancellor Liu." All right, one sec. My throat's getting a little dry, so I'm going to take a sippy sip. It's also like the next part of this. Part 3. The ceremony of washing the body clamored on for a long time, then finally came to an end. Even I felt exhausted from listening to it. As I drowsed, a cloth was once again put over me, and I was carried to a carriage, was set off for a temple called Pufang. This place was extremely quiet. Inside Jingwei Yi's body, I was carried into a big hall. More time passed. I was tasting the chill of the jade in my mouth and recovering my strength when the whispering guards around me all fell silent. The door closed and latched with a click. Someone rushed over, pinching Jingwei Yi's nostrils, and quietly called in his ear, "Your Highness! Your Highness!" I did not move. My wrist was lifted and palpitated. Another voice, extremely low, said, "Strange. There's no pulse." The voice that had called "Your Highness" whispered, "Reasonably speaking, His Highness ought to wake now. Was the dose wrong?" I perceived Jinwei Yi's aura within the body and found that he was still deeply sleeping. The yin energy I had absorbed from the jade must have suppressed him, so he could not move. Just then, an object was inserted into my nostrils and puffed smoke into them. In a moment of carelessness, I couldn't resist sneezing. Instantly, a voice cried out, "Thank heavens! He's awake!" At this stage, I had no choice but to open my eyes. It was already dark out, and the hall was profoundly shadowed. I had only a vague impression of two masked figures beside me. "Your Highness, your subordinates were late. I'm glad you're all right." As expected, Jingwei Yi's escape plan was comprehensive. These two must have been servants from his manor who had arranged in advance to come to the rescue. They discussed the escape with me in whispers. Tomorrow morning, there would be another examination of the corpse, followed by cremation. The substitute course had been prepared, and the fraud would be perpetrated then. One of them, named Shang Xiao, said, "But the place in Shinan has already been found by His Majesty's men. When we get out, where will we go?" Where are we to go? I pretended to ponder it. "I have my own destination, which we will speak of tomorrow." The two of them did not dare to remain long. They left after a brief interval, first giving me a pill to let Jingwei Yi continue to play a corpse. I took the pill, and Jingwei Yi's soul settled into a deeper sleep. I stretched out on the platform and waited for my destination to come to me. Just as I expected, Liu Tongyi came again. From the sound of it, he had brought a big group of guards. First, he asked whether the guards and eunuch keeping watch here had experienced anything unusual. There's been nothing unusual, a guard responded, but for reasons unknown, we all inexplicably fell asleep. At once, someone cried out sternly, "How bold! His Majesty ordered you to guard the body strictly, without any mishaps. Yet you dare to defy an imperial edict and malinger. You can well imagine what a crime this is." The guards and eunuchs kowtowed and begged forgiveness. Just then, I heard Liu Tongyi say, "Lord He, this being the case, it would be appropriate to examine the corpse once more." Lord He immediately gave his firm agreement. He came toward me with vigorous strides and snatched away the cloth covering me. Then I used a bit of magic to raise a chill wind. The door and windows rattled, the curtains trembled. The hall instantly fell silent. There was no more sound even from Lord He. A young eunuch, his teeth chattering, said, He's here. He's here again. His Highness Prince Huai. His resentment cannot be calmed. He's come to haunt us." Lord He took a few steps back, but he still said forcefully, "Utter claptrap! How could a rebel who committed suicide haunt you?" He spat. "At least asking to be cremated shows he has some self-awareness. The sooner he's cremated, the better." "Lord He," said Liu Tongyi gently, "perhaps His Highness Prince Huai thinks that having his corpse examined before a crowd is a disgrace. But if no examination is performed, there will be room for error. So why not have the others withdraw while you and I perform the examination together?" I strengthened my assault. The chill wind blew more violently. I heard Lord He back away further. "I will go out with the others to patrol the temple and see if anything is amiss. If I might leave examining the body to Chancellor Liu," followed by a series of scrambling footsteps. He made a hasty departure. He's like, this is some scary shit. I'm out. Like, you know what? I was indignant in here, like, about the guards, but this be too crazy for me. Like, you're so successful and talented. You got this, right? Like, I'll take care of, like, making sure the rest of this is on above board. Like, I'm out. Goodbye. Like, I'm done with this shit. Followed by a series of scrambling footsteps, he made a hasty departure. The hall was still as death. The door shut softly. The latch fell into place. I heard him approach, then turned over and got up. I spat out the piece of jade, took him by the sleeve, and heedless of everything else, again stopped his mouth with mine. More kisses would deepen his affection and gave me a more powerful hold over him. He stood there and let me kiss him. After a while, I released him and drew close to his ear to whisper, "Ransi, I love you." Liu Tongyi's body stiffened again. He drew away slightly. It was growing light now. He was looking at me with an extremely peculiar expression. I snatched up one of his hands and squeezed it tightly. "It's the truth," I said quietly. "I must leave soon, and I'm afraid after I go, I won't have a chance to say these words to you." He looked at me with a slight furrow in his brow and softly said, "When do you move?" "Before the cremation, after the examination," I said. "There are people to receive me. There is a corpse to act as substitute. Do not worry, I sighed quietly. But the place I had made ready to go to has been found out by His Majesty. I do not yet know where to seek refuge. I put my other hand over his hand. Therefore, I do not know whether I will succeed. Perhaps we will not meet again. Ransi, thank you for helping me. In this life and the next, I will remember you. What a pity that it was not meant to be between us. I know you. I know there is no way you can love me, but I am already content that you can let me love you. Liu Tongyi looked directly into my eyes, then averted his gaze. With a soft sigh, he said, "Is that so?" For an instant, I felt unsure of my ground. His eyes seemed to see through me. I squeezed his hand again and passionately said, "I love you, whether you believe it or not. There is no one but Ransi in my heart." This didn't amount to a lie. None of these people had anything to do with me to begin with, and now the only one that I cared about was Liu Tongyi. Whether I succeeded or failed depended entirely on him. Like, he's not wrong. Like, I kind of like this ghost, like this unnamed ghost. He's kind of hilarious. Like, he's probably gone insane, like at least a little bit. Um, just being stuck in one room for goodness knows how long with literally pretty much zero chance of ever leaving because they boarded up the ceiling. So, like, I'm kind of rooting for the dude. I know it's probably not going to go anywhere, but, like, he's hilarious. Maybe just to me. Liu Tongyi pulled his hand away and said nothing. When I had laid back down to impersonate a corpse, he covered me with the cloth and quietly said, "You, take good care of yourself." He straightened the edges of the cloth and smoothed it. There is an empty house in Chin Kai Alley in Shusho, the only house in the alley. Apart from me, no one knows of it. One shichen later, I boarded a carriage in the wilderness, and the capital receded into the distance behind me. Shang Xiao said, "Your Highness, shall we go to the place in Shangyang Prefecture arranged by the princess before her death?" "No need for the present," I said. "First, we will go to Chin Kai Alley in Shusho. There is an empty house there where we can shelter temporarily." I closed my eyes. Jing Wei Yi's soul was stirring restlessly inside the body. He would soon wake. I said, "I will rest now. Knowledge of the empty house might threaten another's life. I hope you too will not mention it again. We will only occupy it." Chief stewards Shang and Qiao agreed sympathetically. Chief Steward Qiao added, "When we've crossed the river, I'll break away and bid you farewell to avoid suspicion, and leave old Shang to accompany your highness to Shusho. His teacher happens to be in Jiawang, and he will be able to treat your highness's leg." Jing Wei Yi's crippled leg could be healed? What an unexpected surprise. Honestly, I agree. I'm like, part of me is wondering if like it never got healed just because of like all the suspicions from the Imperial family. But if the dude had a person that could have healed his leg before, other than potentially it seeming suspicious to wanting to like be healthier to take over the throne, like why wouldn't you show this person before now? like even just to improve quality of life. Like, I get it's probably like you are less likely to be suspicious if you are impaired or hindered in some way that makes you seem less likely to take over the throne, as having a physical, like, hindrance to your leg would have been during this time period. But like, just quality of life wise, like, that's so shitty. Like, ugh. And we know it worked. Like, he's fine now. So it's a little frustrating for him that like he potentially had this option, but he didn't really because of his life situation. Like, it was safer for him to be unable to move around, um and not be probably in pain, because like I broke my ankle a couple of years ago and that shit still reminds me of what I did, like, to this day. So like, I can imagine that he has pain. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a tangent right now, but I'm just like, this dude just had so much shit against him. And I'm like frustrated, sad, frustrated for his behalf. Anyway, Jing Wei Yi's crippled leg could be healed. What an unexpected surprise. I pretended that I needed a nap, ready to let Jing Wei Yi out for a time so he would not grow suspicious. I could not be too rash in attempting to steal this body. Leave no one the wiser, squeeze out and scatter Jing Wei Yi's soul. That was the best plan. When I closed my eyes and lay down, somehow I thought of Liu Tongyi again. A taste still lingered on my lips. I did not know whether I would see him again. Unexpectedly, I really did think very well of him. If I were Jing Wei Yi, I would certainly love only him, turn the words I had said to him into the unvarnished truth. If I were Jing Wei Yi, perhaps it would not be long before that if came true. Kind of curious now if our Jing Wei Yi is actually our Jing Wei Yi. Like, I don't think he's the ghost, but like, we'll see. Part 4. In the depths of the night, I strolled in the courtyard, stargazing. It was some days already since I had moved into the house in Chin Shinkai Alley. Since Jing Wei Yi's awakening, the day belonged to him, and the night was mine. He had not discovered me, and I controlled him in secret every moment. Our cohabitation was harmonious enough. Shang Xiao had obeyed me and hadn't brought up anything concerning this house again. Jing Wei Yi only took this for a secret residence prepared by Shang Xiao and did not ask questions, keeping the truth concealed from both sides. Shang Xiao had asked around over the last few days. No one in Shuzhou City knew Jing Wei Yi. This house had only one other small house neighboring it, also perpetually unoccupied. After learning this, Shang Xiao ran the risk of temporarily leaving Jing Wei Yi here alone to go invite his teacher to come treat Jing Wei Yi's leg. He had left only this morning and would likely return in 3 or 4 days. Therefore, in this whole house, only Jing Wei Yi and I remained, one man and one ghost, making it more convenient for me to torment him. Aw. Jing Wei Yi's soul was no match for mine, but because this body was his, if it came to an open contest, it would have no advantages. I had to act in secret. This body was linked to the life force of his soul. When he fell asleep, I would take over his body and move around. How could mortal flesh and blood support going day and night without rest? Before, because of Shang Xiao's presence, I couldn't be too obvious about it and had to let Jing Wei Yi's body rest for one Shichen. Jing Wei Yi's soul had already weakened a great deal. Now that Shang Xiao had left, I didn't rest for a single moment. Before Shang Xiao returned, Jing Wei Yi's soul would disperse from the exhaustion of his flesh, and this body could become wholly mine. Because of the feebleness of this body and soul, Jing Wei Yi was listless and languishing. He ate, he sat, became lost in his thoughts. He heaved a few sighs, and just like that, the day would be done. He thought that this was Shang Xiao or his teacher's house, and kept himself to the small hall in the rooms Shang Xiao had cleaned up. When night came, I was bored, so I went everywhere. This house wasn't small. It was simple and secluded and had long stood unoccupied. And there was a great deal of weeds and wildflowers that grew in the courtyard, with trees and shrubs growing freely, giving the place a natural feel. Apart from the spots Shang Xiao had cleared up, the rooms were all locked. Though I was inhabiting the body of a mortal, I could still use some magic. So when I was bored, I opened room after room to look inside. There was nothing special in these rooms, and dust lay thickly over them. Found ordinary bedrooms, rooms where playthings were stored, rooms stacked full of books, and one room that was unexpectedly full of weapons, with a record of the contents on a bookshelf. There was another room in the deepest recesses of the house that looked like a study. An inkstone and a brush that had not been put away still lay on the desk, and even an abandoned sheet of paper with writing on it. But the ink on the inkstone was dry, and a spider web stretched from the tip of the brush. The unfurled sheet of paper and the manuscript heaped up on the desk were both yellowed, covered in dust. I flipped through the manuscript. The handwriting was elegant, but what was written wasn't an article of the state of the world or a metered verse expressing emotions. It was a martial arts romance. It was bizarre and unconstrained, surpassing my imagination. I had only heard of the existence of such books before, not read them. I'd never thought I would inadvertently expand my outlook after many years as a ghost. It was marvelous, outstripping my expectations. Unfortunately, this manuscript stopped before it reached the end. I felt an unbearable itch and searched the room, coming up with many stories that had both beginning and end. Yesterday I had read up an amazing part in one, but it was getting light and Jing Wei Yi would wake soon, so I had to forbear and let go. I held out until Jing Wei Yi fell asleep, sauntered around the courtyard, then went to the room and took some manuscripts. I moved over a low table and a reclining chair, sat out on the veranda reading closely by lamplight. While absorbed in reading, I suddenly noticed a hint of movement. I heard light footsteps slowly coming close. Upon setting down the papers and raising my head, I saw a figure walk in through the moon gate. What do you want to bet that this is the author's house who wrote like the Jade Sword or whatever? I was a ghost, but this living man gave me a fright. Also, that whole urge of like, it was an unfinished work. We all know that feeling. When those fanfics you find are phenomenal and then it's like they never finish it and it's been 4 years and you're like, no! I was a ghost, but this living man gave me a fright. I scrutinized him. It was Liu Tongyi. Why would he be here? Had he come after Jingwei? Or had he been interrogating Jingwei's confederates on the emperor's behalf and now was coming to reel me in? Or had he discovered that something was wrong? I looked closely. Apart from Liu Tongyi, no one was around. I stood, walked down from the veranda, and deliberately displayed astonishment. Ransi, why have you come here? In the night, Liu Tongyi's standing figure looked like a specter, paper-cut silhouette. Please do not worry, Your Highness. I pled illness and retired to my home, and left the capital in secret. Hard on the heels of Prince Huai's death, with everything in such chaos, my absence will go unnoticed. I smiled slightly. He smiled slightly. In fact, I arrived in Shusho 2 days ago, only just after Your Highness. The little house behind this one is my private residence. There is a secret door connecting them. Oh. I smiled, too, and clasped his arm. Ransi, I understand. You couldn't stand to see me go. You were uneasy, so you came after me. Is that it? Liu Tongyi's smile widened. Yes, I was very uneasy, so I came after Your Highness. But because Chief Steward Shang was here, I could not show myself. I hadn't thought Liu Tongyi was so besotted with Jingwei. He had actually followed him all the way to Shusho. Just as I was thinking of him, he had taken the initiative and brought himself before me. I was just wondering whether I ought to hug Liu Tongyi again, give him a kiss to demonstrate my surprise and the depth of my affection, when Liu Tongyi's sleeve slipped from my hand and he walked towards the veranda. What is Your Highness reading? I said airily, Old Shang wanted to clean up the house for you. While sleeping up, he saw these manuscripts in one of the rooms, so I took them out to read. These so-called martial arts romances are actually really good. Don't blame me for touching the stuff in your house, Ransi. Liu Tongyi still wore an impassive smile. These things are all old and of no significance. If Your Highness likes them, by all means, read them. I saw something in his hand which he put on the table. I do not know whether Your Highness has eaten. I thought that, as Chief Steward Shang had left just now, the food still in the house would have to be conserved, so I brought over some pastries. As he spoke, he opened the paper bag he held. A number of sweet-smelling pastries were packed in it. This is good, I praised. Let me get a small charcoal stove to boil water and steep a pot of tea. You and I will stargaze from the veranda. The tea must be strong, Liu Tongyi said. Naturally, I said, smiling. I think Liu Tongyi is picking up that this isn't completely our boy, Jingwei Yi. Because when he was visiting near the beginning of the book and he had tea at night, he said, like growing up, his mom always made the tea weak when it was nighttime. And now he's agreed that it has to be strong tea. So maybe I'm just kind of hoping that Ransi, our Liu Tongyi, knows our boy well enough to be like, so who are you? but I don't know. Maybe I'm just romantic like that. Wang Xian has spoiled me in that sense. When I had steeped the tea and was sitting with Liu Tongyi on the veranda, I sighed. Seeing you now, Ransi, I said, is like a visitation from another life and also like a dream. Liu Tongyi raised his teacup. From the small building in the house behind, I've watched this house, watched it for 2 days. Ever since your Highness asked for my help inside the prison in the capital, there's been a question in my mind that I have very much wanted to ask. He drank some tea, put down his teacup, and asked me directly, might I inquire of your excellency, who are you really? Yes, he did notice! Oh, good! Oh! He did! He did! Yes! My hand froze in the middle of lifting my teacup. Ransi, what are you saying? Yeah, I saw those 100% over there in the hearts. I agree. I agree. Liu Tongyi frowned slightly, his gaze sharp, his expression stern. Having rescued your excellency, of course, I will not reveal it. But I just want to know who you really are and where His Highness Prince Huai is. Yes! Oh, yeah! Okay. I looked at him in the lamplight and shadow. Liu Tongyi had surprised me. Smiling again, I said, Ransi, you're only muddled with sleep. In what aspect am I behaving improperly that you would say such a thing? Placidly, Liu Tongyi said, in outward appearance, there is no difference between your excellency and His Highness Prince Huai. Whether in the imperial prison or prior to your excellency's brilliant escape, there is no time and no reason to replace the original with a fake. However, he sighed again, your excellency and His Highness Prince Huai have nothing in common. I smiled again and sipped some tea. All right, let's do this. You tell me in what ways I'm different, and I'll tell you what you want to know. All right? Liu Tongyi looked at me with an expression that was a little conflicted and helpless. His Highness Prince Huai would never say such a thing with such an expression in such a tone. A person could change, tone could alter, speech could arise from shifting moods. I had many excuses I could use to refute what Liu Tongyi said, but I listened to him go on. His Highness Prince Huai doesn't like sweets. He doesn't eat pastries with these flavors. His Highness Prince Huai doesn't drink strong tea at night. His Highness Prince Huai doesn't rifle through other people's belongings. His Highness Prince Huai has read the manuscript your excellency is now reading, and so on. I listened as he rattled them off one after another, and at last heard him say, the one His Highness Prince Huai loves is not me. What your excellency has done, has said, he would not say, would not do. I smiled sincerely and raised my eyebrows as I looked at him. So despite harboring these suspicions, you still saved me, just for the sake of solving the riddle and learning where Jing Wei Yi is? Why do you love Jing Wei Yi so much? He doesn't care for you at all. I have stated my causes, said Liu Tongyi. Please tell me the truth, your excellency. Continued. The one Jing Wei Yi loves is Yun Yu. His heart is full of him. When he called your name as he was dying, he only wanted to scare you so you wouldn't suspect he was pretending and make his escape more convenient. He'll never sincerely say that he loves you. Why treat him like this? Liu Tongyi's expression did not falter. His tone was mild. Please tell me the truth, your excellency. I sneered. And why do you feign composure, saying His Highness Prince Huai with every breath? Who knows how many times you have cried out, Wei Yi, in your heart? Liu Tongyi looked at me placidly. Placidly, he said. His Highness Prince Huai usually prefers people to call him by his courtesy name. Oh? That threw me off. Liu Tongyi continued flatly. In other words, if I were to cry out in my heart, I would be calling Chengjun, not Wei Yi. Liu Tongyi added. Of course, I also think Chengjun has a more pleasant sound than Wei Yi. Oh. I looked at Liu Tongyi speechlessly for a long moment, then said, Fine. I'll tell you. It's up to you whether you believe it. I'm not going to lie, but you definitely won't believe me. Actually, I'm a ghost. Liu Tongyi looked at me without any reaction. I thought that he hadn't understood. A hanged ghost, I added. I died in that prison cell many years ago. I stuck out my tongue and let my eyes roll up. Blah! Just like this, a hanged ghost. Liu Tongyi still didn't react, or didn't understand. I continued, probing deeper. Because I could never find a scapegoat. You know, a hanged ghost can only reincarnate if he finds a scapegoat. I had to overtake Jing Wei Yi's body. Right now, this body is Jing Wei Yi's, of course. During the day, his soul controls it. During the night, my soul controls it. Preparing to give his body no rest day or night, so that his soul grows feeble and scatters. In this way, I can completely take over this body. When I finished my explanation, I observed the changes in Liu Tongyi. Saw that his brow was slightly furrowed again, and his expression was thoughtful. I said, You see, you don't believe me. Liu Tongyi's brow smoothed. So that's it. I was astonished. You believe me? Liu Tongyi's expression indeed showed no sign of disbelief. I only believe the truth, and the truth is before my eyes. However bizarre it may be, it is the truth. During the washing of the corpse, among those present was young Master Chu Shun, was often close to His Highness Prince Huai. Could not understand, as your excellency was not his Highness Prince Huai, why your body would in fact be His Highness Prince Huai's. They had Chu Shun there to verify that it was his body. Oh, that's stone cold. That is stone cold. I frowned, looking at Liu Tongyi, and said sincerely, Ransi, I really do love you more and more. Smiling, Liu Tongyi said, Your Excellency must have had enough of this joke at my expense. I'm being honest, I said earnestly. Liu Tongyi picked up his teacup. I see. Thank you. But now that I know the truth, I must think of a way to resolve this. Your Excellency is a ghost. Is it because of an unfulfilled wish that you have inhabited His Highness Prince Huai's body? I also filled my teacup. Do you want to ask me what would make me willing to release Jing Wei Yi? I have no unfulfilled wish. I only want a body. Jing Wei Yi's body happens to suit my tastes, so I don't plan on leaving. Liu Tongyi said, If all your excellency wants is a body to inhabit, then perhaps there is still room to negotiate. Still room to negotiate? Was he going to find me another body? Or even more touching, was Liu Tongyi planning to act as substitute for Jing Wei, give up his body so I could inhabit it? I roundly refused. I just think Jing Wei is more suitable. Ransi, why must you throw me out? Your whole court wanted Jing Wei to die anyway, and he also didn't want to live. Why not let me have this? As for you, I know you love Jing Wei. You can keep treating me like Jing Wei just as if he had a change of temperament. Threw down my teacup and drew close to him. That Jing Wei has a heart full of someone else. I only love you. Starting today, Jing Wei will only love Ransi. I have a body. You'll have Jing Wei. Won't both sides be satisfied? Liu Tongyi gently put down his teacup. Supposing that I loved His Highness Prince Huai, even if I were willing to lie to myself, I still couldn't tolerate a body whose soul has changed. All things in this world have their own destinations, their own causes and effects. Why use force to take what is not yours? I am a ghost, I said, smiling. The world's rules can't bind me. There are some things that can only be obtained by force. Actually, I can see that your temperament isn't truly cold and unworldly. I felt for a manuscript on the table and flipped through it. These martial arts tales, they must have been written by you. Upright on the surface, but burning within. With your temperament, Jing Wei cannot appreciate your virtues. Perhaps, if you try spending time with me, you'll find that we are more suited for each other. Liu Tongyi smiled slightly and said, in the many years since I took on an official position, the only person who has sincerely called me upright, apart from His Highness Prince Huai, is your Excellency. Oh, they have already got something in common other than a body. He took another manuscript from the table and gathered it up neatly. Suddenly, he changed the subject. Might I inquire of your Excellency, what is your age? I froze. Curling up the corners of my mouth, I said, I am but a ghost. It's hard to keep track of time. Liu Tongyi put aside the orderly papers. I mean to ask about your Excellency's age when you passed away. Did he want to investigate my origins to make it easier to deal with? Guess, I answered breezily. But Liu Tongyi did not speak. I stood up. If you want to find out who I am, then think of a way to expel me. I'm afraid there's not enough time. Jing Wei's soul can hold out another 2 or 3 days at most, but I'm willing to give you a chance. If you can guess who I am, I will leave Jing Wei's body. Liu Tongyi lowered his eyelashes and bent his head slightly. Very well. I studied his profile in the lamplight. For the first time, I said from the heart, I'm willing to give you this chance because I love you. I really do love you very much now, Ransi. And I know that you'll never guess who I am. Liu Tongyi stood as well. With a bland smile, he said, if your Excellency loves me only because you have read these manuscripts, then you love the wrong person. These manuscripts were written by my father. He has been dead many years. No way! Oh, I love that. He was reading his dad's manuscript when they both met for the first time. Oh, that's kind of funny because like they were all officials. And his dad had a habit like this, which in this time was not very cultured. That's awesome. I love it. Backstory. He walked up to the railing and looked out into the distant, dense night. This house is a private residence purchased by my father. Its former name is the House of the Red Leaves of the Western Hills. There it is. Apart from him, I am the only one who knows of it. Oh my gosh. Just loving this. Hang on. The next day, when evening came, I muscled out Jingwei Yi and sent him to sleep, then went to pull out the manuscripts Liu Tongyi's father had written to read again. I thought that it was just a coincidence that Tongyi's surname was Liu. Only yesterday, when I had heard him mention it, had I learned that he was a descendant of Liu Jing. It surprised me that the Liu clan had thrived for many generations. I tried to imagine the look on Grand Tutor Liu Jing's face, he who had only been capable of looking grave and delivering ponderous truths. If he learned that his descendant had written such vulgar romance, that's what I'm saying. When night fell, Liu Tongyi came again, and he brought some side dishes, plain porridge, and cakes. Glancing at the cakes, I said, "Didn't you say that Jingwei Yi doesn't eat sweets? Why did you bring these?" "Yesterday I saw that your excellency greatly enjoyed these two delicacies," said Liu Tongyi. Smiling, I said, "Ransi is truly considerate." While I was laying out the dishes, I asked, "Why do you only come to see me, not Jingwei Yi? If he knew you had helped him, he would certainly be grateful to you, and perhaps gratitude would give rise to love." Liu Tongyi put a bowl of porridge in front of me. "I very much want to know whether there is a hidden story behind His Highness faking his death to escape, and the rebellion, but taking relative severity into account, I first have to solve the problem of how to invite your excellency to leave His Highness's body. Besides which, if we manage to escape, if His Highness sees me without warning, I'm afraid." I gazed at him and said gently, "Ransi, why do you love him? You rescued him without regard for anything, and now you're still trying to come up with a way to oust me so you can save him. He won't spare a single kind thought for you." That's not the truth, but the ghost couldn't know that. Liu Tongyi smiled. "There are many reasons for me to do this. The greatest reason is that I want to know the truth behind the whole business. I was the one who set up the plot to investigate His Highness Prince Huai, but after he went to prison, when I checked the evidence, I found many points of suspicion. And as for His Highness' confession, I also thought it was strange. Maybe I am still worried about there being injustice and bias involved in His Highness Prince Huai's case." As he said this, his expression was rather laden. He was speaking his true thoughts. "You're helping Jingwei Yi fake his death and escape," I said. "Isn't that treason against the emperor?" "So I am no loyal courtier," said Liu Tongyi. "I only value right and wrong, actions committed and uncommitted, wrongs done or undone. At court, many things cannot be clearly judged as right or wrong, but at the most fundamental level, there can be no ambiguity." Put a hand to my cheek. As he spoke these grave words, there was much in his manner of Grand Tutor Liu. Gave me an irresistible ache in my molars. But Liu Tongyi was much better looking than Grand Tutor Liu. Even pulling a long face, he was still graceful and adorable. Did he have a crush on Grand Tutor Liu? What a coincidence. I cupped my cheek with my right hand and watched him draw his brows together, about to go on talking about Jingwei Yi. Suddenly, I wanted to shut him up, so before he could start, I got up and came forward. Catching him off guard, lightly and quick, I stopped his mouth with mine. Practice makes perfect. The more practice, the more natural. I kissed him a while, then released him. I drew close to his ear and said, Ransi, let's not speak of Jing Wei. His soul will soon scatter. Even if only to save him, you have to speak more of me. He's getting jealous. I stepped back a little and considered his expression, then clutched his sleeve. What? Are you angry? Liu Tongyi still wore that same expression. It gave me a feeling of dejection. I sat back down to my porridge. Liu Tongyi placed another dish in front of me. My investigation has already yielded some preliminary results, but tonight I am indeed unable to determine Your Excellency's identity. He trimmed the lamp wick. Yesterday, Your Excellency told me your cause of death. Vanishingly few people have been confined in that cell, and I've read all the pertinent records. But the Ministry of Justice's records concerning the causes of death of the people confined in that cell are not necessarily true. Therefore, they must be investigated and verified anew. He wouldn't breathe a word unless he was sure. He was in Suzhou now, unable to search the records of court in the capital. His so-called investigation and verification would have to consist of observing my every word and gesture and determining the possible truth from that. I took the napkin he offered and wiped my mouth. Ransi, it's a pleasant night. Inside the canopy, under the covers, I might well tell you everything. I stared at his expression and added considerately, The first time, if it's still strange to you, you can act like I'm him for now. Call me Chengjun. I won't object. His expression composed, Liu Tongyi said, His Highness Prince Huai was often served in bed by a young master Chu Shun. Oh? Liu Tongyi continued. Young Master Chu Shun was actually acting under orders to get close to His Highness Prince Huai and to search for evidence that he was plotting a rebellion. But he was with His Highness Prince Huai for a long time without finding a single piece of decent evidence. Well now, Liu Tongyi sighed. This is sufficient to bear out that pillow talk cannot be relied upon. There is no need for me to test it. Oh. The next morning, I opened the secret door in the wall of the rear court and entered Liu Tongyi's little house. Liu Tongyi had told me that he was alone in this house without retinue. This little residence, green bamboo set off 2 of 3 wings. A door was open, the window propped up. Crept to a window and saw Liu Tongyi sitting at a table in the room reading something. When he raised his head and saw me outside the window, he was stunned. I didn't speak. Dragging one leg behind me, I limped to the door. Liu Tongyi got to his feet, slowly bracing himself against the table. Smiling, I said, Ransi, have you guessed who I am? Liu Tongyi was appalled. Why has Your Excellency appeared during the day? He's like, dude, we had a deal. I looked into his face and felt an inexplicable trace of sadness. I wanted to have a look at you by daylight, so I came over, I said, deliberately blithe. I paused, then added, Relax. Jingwei's soul is doing fine. He's too weak now. If I let him sleep a little longer, he won't dissipate as quickly. It's for his own good. Liu Tongyi's expression calmed. I went to look at the things on his desk, some files and books. You brought work with you to Suzhou? Took a book and flipped through it. And you said you weren't a loyal courtier. Clearly, you're a slavishly devoted imperial chancellor. Put the book back down and shook out a stack of paper next to it. Under the papers, which were covered in writing, there turned out to be a big heap of paintings. I flipped through them doubtfully. Some were meticulously rendered, and others consisted of a few sloppy strokes, but without exception, all the paintings contained willow leaves and willow branches and a man. The man in all these paintings was always drawn from the back or in vague profile, his features never delineated in detail. He wore a gown or an official robe, stood or sat, the atmosphere and scenery different from image to image. But I could tell these paintings were of a single person. Some lines of poetry were also inscribed on the paintings. I couldn't resist saying to Liu Tongyi, these wouldn't happen to be Jingwei's paintings of you. Liu Tongyi didn't answer. It was a tacit acknowledgement. I flipped through them again. What terrible paintings, I said honestly. The handwriting is hideous. The poetry, how could anyone write this? Harsh. Liu Tongyi's silence continued. I graciously abandoned my commentary. Did Jingwei Yi show you these? Is that why you're dead set on him? These paintings were found in the place that supposedly contained evidence that His Highness Prince Huai was plotting rebellion, said Liu Tongyi. In that secret cabinet, there was nothing apart from these. So Liu Tongyi had seen these paintings, was touched, and fell in love with Jingwei Yi. The one he truly loves is Yun Yu, I said. Liu Tongyi's expression remained composed. I know, he said. One by one, he gathered up the papers that I had scattered. His Highness Prince Huai previously mistook the person his heart was bound to. These paintings were done while he was mistaken. Afterward, they were put aside and stored in that secret cabinet. An indescribable taste surged up in my throat. False displays of affection, I said, sneering. May as well not look. Ugly handwriting, some ugly paintings, a few ugly poems. My work was better when I was 8 years old. He put the orderly papers back on the desk. I put my hand over his. Ransi, I'll draw for you. I'll draw from the heart, much better than him. Will you love me then? Liu Tongyi looked back at me with an indefinable sort of helplessness in his eyes. And for what reason does your excellency say this? What reason? Probably because in the imperial prison, when I had seen his expression as he witnessed Jing Wei Yi's false death, I had felt irresistible envy. Only after becoming a ghost did I learn that the rarest and most precious thing in the world was true love, without ulterior motives or desires. Jingwei Yi didn't value Liu Tongyi's virtues. Why shouldn't I attempt to take his place, have that for myself? So I said earnestly, because I love you. The indulgent smile once again appeared on Liu Tongyi's face. Suddenly, he raised his hand. Before I could react, I felt his hand fall on the top of my head and give it a rub. I darted back a pace. I still felt a chill from the touch of Liu Tongyi's sleeve. Liu Tongyi's expression was apologetic. Forgive me, I couldn't help myself. I was a little stiff. Liu Tongyi's eyes stopped on my face. He sighed and took a step forward. He raised his hand and stroked the top of my head again. He was slightly shorter than Jingwei Yi, but this gesture from him was extremely practiced and natural. Your Excellency, how many years short of coming of age were you? 6 years? 7? 8? In my bewilderment, I inadvertently blurted out, only 4 or 5 years short of 20. I've been a ghost for so many years. Isn't it ridiculous to consider how long I was alive? I was a kid. Oh, Liu Tongyi was silent. At last, his expression changed as he looked at me. A bit of pity filtered in. I came to my senses at once. You've guessed who I am? Liu Tongyi was already kneeling. Your Highness, I acted discourteously before. I ask for forgiveness. I leaned down to raise Liu Tongyi to his feet. Get up. I was only the eldest son of an imperial prince, less distinguished than an imperial uncle like Jing Wei. You don't have to go out of your way to perform this obeisance. Just treat me like you did before. Once he was standing, I put my hands behind my back and sighed. Ransi, I've lost. I'm willing to pay the price for losing and scrupulously abide by my promise. Liu Tongyi stood there quietly. I raised my eyelids and looked at him. However, I don't know how to leave Jing Wei's body. At last, panic reappeared in Liu Tongyi's expression. I was very pleased with myself and put on a display of, I'm very willing, but there's nothing I can do. Liu Tongyi stood there without making a sound for a while, then turned aside. He rolled up his sleeves, picked up a chair, walked out the door onto the veranda, and put the chair down. He came back inside and picked up another chair. I watched in astonishment as he finished moving chairs and went on to move a table. Then he carried over a kettle to brew tea and a tea service and arranged them on the table, then brought out plates of refreshments. Finally, he took me to the table on the veranda and pushed me into a chair. I blankly snatched up a lotus root paste flaky bun and ate it. I sat there and watched as Liu Tongyi brewed tea and poured it. Finally, he placed a cup of tea in front of me. He stroked my head. It's all right. If you don't know how, Your Highness and I can take our time and find a way. Biting into the bun, I watched him sit down across from me. For some reason, all the hair on the back of my neck wanted to stand up. Liu Tongyi pushed the teacup towards me. Why did Your Highness go to prison? He asked gently. The account in the official records is extremely scant. It only says that Prince Chen's eldest son defied the emperor and was sent to prison, then was suddenly taken ill and died within 2 days. Of course, that was the cause of death given. I smiled. The reason is about what you said. Then there is still some disparity, said Liu Tongyi. Was Your Highness unjustly accused? Is that why you were unable to ascend to heaven? I shook my head. No. You said yourself that in many things there is no so-called right and wrong or black and white. Back then, I wanted to be done with it all and not bother about it anymore, but unfortunately, as a hanged ghost without a substitute, all I could do was linger in that prison. But Liu Tongyi still asked, why did Your Highness defy the emperor? Thought about it. After all these years, I've almost forgotten the reason. But let me ask you some questions. If you answer truthfully, maybe I'll remember. Go ahead and ask, Your Highness. Maybe I'll remember. Go ahead and ask, Your Highness, Liu Tongyi said readily. I stared into his eyes. Why do you love Jing Wei? I asked emphatically. Why can't you love me instead? Liu Tongyi smiled. I love Your Highness very much. I sneered. You aren't telling the truth. Then we have nothing to talk about. I wouldn't say I'm lying, said Liu Tongyi. If you mean that kind of love, I really don't know whether you could say I love His Highness Prince Huai. Liu Tongyi poured more tea into the cup in front of him. The residence your highness is staying in currently is called the House of the Red Leaves of the Western Hills. It was left behind by my late father. When my father was gravely ill, I inadvertently caught him writing and learned that he had another name, the Scholar of the Red Leaves of the Western Hills, and he wrote martial art romances. I was about the same age as your highness then. I was extremely shocked to learn of this. My father was a reserved and upright person. I had never imagined he could have this other identity. After my father passed away, I was the only one in the world who knew of this, and of this residence. I found all the romances he had written and read them, and even found books similar to his and read those. Later, my grandfather brought me back to the capital. I did not dare tell him about my father, because my grandfather, as well as my uncle, as well as the officials and scholars like them, all said that romance art or martial arts romances were filth, unfit for polite society. To them, the people who wrote these romances disgraced the sages and had no character to speak of. Liu Tongyi said that, despite this, he had thought that his father's romances were better written than many serious works, yet he did not know whether he was going against the lessons of the wise, nor did he know whom he ought to endorse between his grandfather and his father. He was on one hand conflicted, but continued to look for romances to read in secret. My brain, for 1 second, was like, is he a Fudoshi? Like, they didn't necessarily say they were cut sleeve romances, but I wouldn't put it past him not to be, because he is a cut sleeve. Like, not to say, like, not to imply anything, but, like, dude seems pretty open minded. Like, clearly, he believed the ghost when he was like, I'm a ghost. He was like, based. Continue. He was on one hand conflicted, but continued to look for romances to read in secret. Even when he attended a palace banquet with his grandfather, he still found an opportunity to sneak off and read, and unwittingly ran into Jingwei Yi. At the time, His Highness Prince Huai said to me that he loved the scholar of the Red Leaves of the Western Hills books. His commentary on martial art romances was as conscientious as if he were opinioning on serious works. That was when I realized that martial art romances in the books of the sages alike were all written from the heart by people of the world to express their feelings, just using different methods. Among writings, there are no distinctions between high and low, noble and vulgar. Many reasons for liking or disliking them, when you get down to it, arise only from your own preferences. Ain't that the truth? He said that later, for Jingwei Yi's mother's birthday, he accompanied his mother on a congratulatory visit. He wanted to talk with Jingwei Yi again about martial art romances. When he found the rear garden, he saw Jingwei Yi playing in the snow with a crowd of princes. He stood under the eaves then, looking on from afar as, amid the falling snow, Jingwei Yi held the princes up, one after another, to pick plum blossoms. Suddenly he had understood what his grandfather had meant when he said that the Liu clan and Prince Huai were not the same kind of people. The scene then had been like a painting, but he was doomed to be a mere observer. Some principles in life only take an instant to comprehend. Liu Tongyi set down his teacup. Being an observer suits me better. So from then on, he had only watched from a distance. From the outside, one could see very clearly many things that the person in the painting could not see, such as his preferences, his habits, the person who was always beside him, whom he truly loved, who suited him. My teeth ached a little. I frowned and said, So you told him that it was Yu he truly loved? I had an instantaneous impression of a halo behind his head. When you did this, did you feel you were being especially noble, especially understanding, as if you had one foot among the clouds and were about to fly up to heaven? I am not the one he loves, said Liu Tongyi. Even if he was mistaken for a time, he would eventually realize the truth. Then there would be trouble for everyone. I didn't want to come to grief. He smiled. In reality, I'm a selfish person who doesn't want trouble. I wordlessly picked up a pastry and stuffed it into my mouth. Then I drank some tea. Now that you're rescuing him, you're not an observer anymore, are you? It's just that the painting might wrinkle, and it's up to me, the observer, to smooth it out. I don't want to have nothing left to look at in the future. I bet you like looking. I was absolutely speechless. I thought that the halo beside his head was dazzlingly bright. Forget it. You're tired of watching. How about I love you, you love me, and we make each other happy? Much more straightforward. I bit into another flaky bun and sincerely proposed. I'll get rid of Jingwei right now, and you and I will make a fresh start. Liu Tongyi's face fell. I laughed. I'm kidding. Since you've told me the truth, I'll tell you how to expel a ghost like me. He stood up and patted down my clothes. Go find some peach tree branches and yellow rice wine and boil them together. Then make Jingwei Yi drink the wine. I won't be able to hold out. Peach wood is used to expel ghosts, so it won't do Jingwei Yi any harm. Liu Tongyi frowned. But you... Well, I said, I'll go back out to be a wandering spirit. If you're grateful to me, bring me some funeral money and do some good deeds. Maybe I'll be able to go to the underworld. But I'm very pleased that you asked. I went into the courtyard and looked all around. I'd always wanted to go to Jiawang. I'd never thought that when I finally got to go, I would only get to see 2 houses. Liu Tongyi still stood on the veranda. Hurry up and go look, I said, and make sure I drink it before the sun seeks beneath the mountains tonight, or else you'll have to wait for tomorrow. I turned. I'll be waiting for you next door. Wait just a sec. I think we are almost at the end of it, but I need a quick sippy sip. All right. In the afternoon, Liu Tongyi came as arranged. I narrowed my eyes at the wine and peach branches in his hands, then looked at the sky. It was still early. There was some time to go till dusk. I brought a small copper stove and a small pot so Liu Tongyi could boil the wine, then stood aside with my hands in my sleeves, watching. The yellow wine poured into the pot, and its fragrance wafted all around. I stepped forward to hug Liu Tongyi and kissed him again. His expression shifted. I released him. It's nothing. I'm just a little frustrated because soon I won't be able to kiss you again. Liu Tongyi asked me softly, What happened to you? I sat down on the steps. Isn't it enough that I'm leaving? Why must you ask too much? Since you are leaving, said Liu Tongyi, what prevents you from telling me? I smiled at him and still did not say. When the wine infused with peach tree branches had boiled long enough, I approached, picked it up, and poured it into a bowl. The wine reflected the light of the setting sun and also took on an evening glow. I took a rolled-up paper from my sleeve and handed it to Liu Tongyi. then watched him unroll it. What do you think? My painting is much better than Jingwei Yi's. The painting was a snowy scene I had tried to draw in accordance with Liu Tongyi's description earlier, of him when he was young standing on the veranda, watching Jingwei Yi picking plum blossoms with the princes in the snow. I'd never seen Liu Tongyi when he was younger, only drawn what I guessed he had looked like, but I thought that my painting looked much more like him than Jingwei Yi's. You think someone else is in the painting, so there must be someone who thinks you are in the painting. I just wanted to show him this painting and say these words to Liu Tongyi. I clutched his sleeve. Ransi, do you know why I'm willing to go? Because when you said those things to me, I really did love you. Really. The light of the setting sun slanted down. Briefly, my vision dimmed, and I had the impression that he loved me a little too. I let go of his sleeve. Forget it. I wanted to see whether I could convince you to relent in the end, but even a ghost has to abide by his promise. I picked up the bowl and drained it in one go. I pointed at the painting he held. The signature there is my nickname. My body grew unsteady. The yin energy I'd scraped together was dissipating, bit by bit. I lay down on a reclining chair. Liu Tongyi grabbed the cuff of my sleeve. In fact, Liu Tongyi, when you guessed who I was, you guessed wrong. However clever you might be, you couldn't have guessed right. I yawned. That's right. Zishu is our nickname. Our name is Jingsu. We ought to be enjoying offerings in the ancestral temple of the imperial family. You should have been calling us Emperor Taizong. The one who ruled the empire and was interned in the ancestral temple was our twin brother, Jing Yuan. Your forefather, Liu Jin, along with our mother, the empress, thought that because we were partial to painting and calligraphy, we were unsuited to be emperor and therefore replaced us with Prince Jin, then immured us in a stone prison under the name of Prince Chen's eldest son. Jing Yuan and I were twin brothers. Because I was born slightly earlier, the advantage went to me, and I became crown prince. I'd had no interest originally in being crown prince. Jing Yuan was skilled in martial arts, excelled in horsemanship and archery, liked to study warcraft. He closely resembled our father, the emperor. I had told my father many times to give Jing Yuan the position of crown prince. I had been sincere, but Jing Yuan had thought I did it out of suspicion of him. He earnestly declined. Why can't they just be serious and say it? Like, no, dude, I'm serious. Take it. Take the position. I don't want it. You be crown prince. I'm happy with my painting and my artistry. Go. Leave me to my hermitry. Grand Tutor Liu and my mother both said before my father, the emperor, that he must install his eldest son as crown prince as an example to later ages. But when my father passed away, the night I ascended the throne, my mother and Grand Tutor Liu had me rendered unconscious. When I awoke, I found myself in a stone prison. Seriously, this could have been solved so much easier. He was willing to give up the position. Oh. At the time, the stone prison was utterly secret, with its walls all around and only one small door. In that stone room, my mother, Grand Tutor Liu, and two other loyal courtiers assiduously counseled me to allow Prince Jin to take my place, because I wasn't suited to being emperor, as if my being emperor would lead to the demise of the Jing clan's empire. I just didn't understand. When I wanted to give up being emperor, they didn't want me to. Now that the position was mine, they wanted to rob me of it. Why was this? I knew that even if I agreed, if I became Jingyuan and Jingyuan became emperor, I would still never know peace. Would spend my whole life mistrusted. Be better off putting an end to it altogether. They could rest easy, and I would be free. No one kept watch in the stone room. I was alone. Thought that Jing Yuan, my mother, and Grand Tutor Liu all secretly hoped I would do this. My mother and Grand Tutor Liu had brought me Jing Yuan's clothes and told me to put them on if I agreed. The violet silk belt in the bundle had been a gift from me. Jing Yuan had laughed then, saying it was long enough to wrap around twice, but because cutting a belt was bad luck, he had worn it doubled up. As it happened, turned out to be just long enough for me to use now. Suspended in the air, I really did think that this would be the end. Only, I hadn't counted on it being true that a hanged ghost cannot reincarnate. Dying was easy, but after my death I had my full share of torment. Had I known beforehand, I would rather have lived out my prince as Prince Jin experienced decades of a living hell. Inhabiting Jin Wei Yi after leaving the prison, I found that the empire was indeed well governed. Had I been emperor back then, perhaps it would not be as prosperous as it was today. If the world is like a game of Weiqi, then I must be a piece doomed to be abandoned for the sake of the overall strategy. That was indeed a grievance I could not swallow. The ever-loving and tender mother who had given birth to me and raised me, the grand tutor who had always painstakingly counseled me on how to be a wise ruler, and Jing Yuan, who when we were little had been as inseparable from me as body from shadow. All their actions had been falsehoods. Was there any sincere kindness in the world? Now it seemed that there was, but I had never met it. Actually, I didn't know what the aftermath of using wine infused with peach wood to force me from Jing Wei Yi's body would be. I had slipped outside of Jing Wei Yi's body. I felt myself about to drift apart. Weariness and confusion stole over me. Whether I would turn to utter nothingness or wake in the yellow springs, I did not know. If there is a next life, I hope there is someone in the painting with me. Someone to paint with me. And that is the end of that extra chapter. I feel bad for that supposed to be emperor little ghosty, because he was just a teenager that was like, no, seriously, I'm cool with my brother being emperor. Let him be emperor. He's clearly better for it. And then when they actually came to it, there was a rebellion. Like, it was a great chapter though. Like I really enjoyed the chapter. I'm just a little sad for him. Like he I was not expecting this chapter. Like this extra. I will tell you that. I mean, the majority of this story has been very much like a historical fiction novel without magic. And so to have a chapter where it's like, sup, I'm a ghost. I'm taking over this body. And have it from that perspective was definitely a little out of left field, but I'm not upset about it. How about you guys? Like, what are your feelings on this extra? Because, like, I think it was pretty good. It explained a little bit of that plot hole of like, what do you mean that house was Liu Tongyi's? Like, I thought he was like out of the loop on this, and now it's like, oh, okay. So that's how he was kind of brought into this a little bit. Makes a bit more sense. So I'm happy for that. But like, what do we think of our ghosty boy? I'm gonna blow my nose real quick. Any thoughts? However, wherever he ends up, I hope he's happy. Or that his next life is happy, depending. Because, like, he deserves it. Like, he just wanted to do his art and was doing his best and got betrayed. So, I hope he's happy wherever he ended up. But yeah. So, regarding the last two extras, I'm not going to read them tonight. We are going to do what we said, which was we're going to read those on Tuesday. And then speaking about next week. So we're going to finish out the book on Tuesday. That's completely fine. After that, we will be starting Peach Blossom Debt. And we have the choice to either do that on Wednesday, I think, kind of like this week, because I'm helping a friend move Thursday. Let me bring up my calendar. So yes. So we have two options. We can start Peach Blossom Debt on Wednesday. Or I might just be taking Thursday. And we start Peach Blossom Debt on the 24th, which probably will be what happens just because it's a bit of a break between them. But we'll see on Tuesday. We'll see what's up. Okay? But I guess that's it for tonight. And for the rest of this week, since I won't be doing a stream tomorrow. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I do like how this author writes. They have like a bit of humor in their writing that I really enjoy. Which I think is great. Like there's a little bit of sass. And I like that. But yeah. I hope you all, both watching and watching later, so that's you, enjoyed and will be able to join me next time for the rest of the Imperial Uncle next time. I already popped that one up for Tuesday, so it's already up. I was very efficient today. And have a good night, Cookielicious. I didn't realize you were here too, but I hope you enjoyed. But yeah, I'm trying to remember if I forgot anything. I don't think I did. Good night.